You guys playing your Space Invaders or whatever, nerds?
Unless you quit video games.
Like,
I know people who like quit cold turkey.
I had to do that.
Different story, you know?
I had to quit video games for a long time because I just get too addicted to them. I'm very lightly dabbling again, which is probably not good. I mean, that's probably not the way you're supposed to do that.
A relapse.
Yeah, it's a total. It's going towards
I
a
think
relapse.
it's okay to dabble. You just need to pick games where you can't play them too much. You should
Shadow
pick
of
up,
Mordor.
You should pick
That's
up
one.
Animal Crossing.
Animal Crossing? Okay.
Because you literally can't play the game for more like an hour. You just
And
run
that's
out
it?
of things to do.
And then that's the
each
game's
day,
over.
you like get more things.
Okay, that's good. That's like
Yeah.
it's a limited amount of crack that I can have.
Yeah,
essentially
exactly.
per day. All right, see, we've solved that problem there. All right, I think we're live right now. Hello, everyone. This is Close to the Metal. This is our weekly computing podcast where we talk about everything with computing. Usually, we go in depth with one particular topic. Today, we've got a couple of different ones that we're going to bounce around to, and we are live on Facebook right now as well as on YouTube. And so, we want to hear your comments, your questions. If you have something you want us to bring up, go ahead and drop it in there, and I'll try to get to it as we go through the show. Let us know your thoughts and opinions on everything. I'm your host, Greg Nibbler, and to my right,
Brad Burke.
Matt Smith.
and Matt Smith with the that was a pretty good glare at the camera. Is there something going off in here?
Someone calling us on Skype? No, I think is it in the next room?
Someone calling these smart lights? Is that
I don't know. There is a Skype sound going off in here somewhere, but we'll just let that go on as it is. All right. Pay no attention to that. Let's get through our topics here right now. So we've got a bunch of stuff to get to, but one of the biggest stories I think that we're seeing come out is Microsoft has some layoffs that are occurring right now, including like probably one of their most recognizable faces, the most recognizable people from Microsoft's press conferences, and that is Bryan Roper. And Bryan Roper, this guy, the Fedora guy. If that narrows it down a little bit. The Fedora guy is now going to be laid off, no longer employed by Microsoft, and which sucks. I'm not laughing at anybody losing their job, but it is kind of weird that this is the guy they would lay off. How quickly do you think Apple is sending this guy a contract right now, like just for a commercial? Like they're going to try to do it.
That's actually true. I would not be surprised if they.
Oh yeah, he's going to pop up.
tried it.
He's going to pop up in an Apple versus Mac commercial within the next month, I bet. But why? Let's talk about these layoffs. Why is it that this is happening at Microsoft?
Well, I mean, honestly, I don't think that this would gain too much exposure.
Yeah.
No offense to the other 699 people, but if he hadn't have gotten laid off, I don't think people would have paid nearly as much attention to it, because the layoffs are pretty much this kind of normal restructuring layoff for Microsoft. Like 700 employees is not a ton for a company of this size. For example, Intel has regularly cut a lot more people than that, as we well know, because Intel's here in Portland, Oregon with us, and it always causes a little bit of drama when they announce
I think we all know someone who's been laid off by Intel at some point.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, Microsoft's actual restructuring as of late has been more towards this, like, cloud first thing, which, every time Nadella gets on stage, he's like, cloud first, and yeah, they actually are, going that direction. And it means that they're cutting some things in like software, for example, that they don't really want to focus on anymore.
So they are just going full on cloud. That's really what their main focus is on.
I mean, I think people kind of forget that the main thing Microsoft makes money on is enterprise or operating systems. Like you buying an $80 copy of Windows 10 is a drop in the bucket compared to a company buying a full suite of computers they have to license and servers and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And the cloud is just the next step in them kind of taking that, remembering where their business lies and where their revenue lies, and shifting towards that.
Yeah. But it does really suck that they have laid off Bryan Roper. I'm not really sure why they did that. Although I think from my understanding of it is he's not like, he wasn't like a full-time like presenter. Like he had other roles in Microsoft.
Yeah. He was
and they just kind of like
manager of some kind.
Figured out that he's like really really passionate about it and good on stage. So then, he always ends up there. But yeah, I don't know who is going to be up there now to show the same sort of enthusiasm. Like
who else are you going to get? Because that guy was the cheerleader
You're gonna have
for
to get
Microsoft.
Steve Ballmer back.
I mean, he made demos like kind of entertaining to watch.
Yeah.
You know, like which normally product demos can be pretty
Right.
I think Apple has demonstrated that pretty well recently. In some of its recent Mac OS product demos, they're kind of like, oh, okay, like it's always like, okay, dad joke, yeah, all
okay.
right. But you know, if you want to play Titanfall 2 or Battlefield 1 with Bryan Roper, he's doing that this morning. He just posted on Twitter.
Oh, he is. So you can play.
So his tag is Dat Windows Dude, which is now a little bit sad. That's Dat DAT Windows Dude.
Okay, so that's
if you want to play some
pretty quick.
Titanfall 2 or Battlefield 1, he is playing this morning, and you can help commiserate with him.
All right. Well, I'm sorry for Brian losing his job.
Or maybe send him a job offer.
Yeah, or that. Like I said,
over a match of Titanfall 2.
Somebody is sending him a contract right now, and I think it's Apple. You're going to see him in an Apple commercial. That's my bet. But as we're live here on Facebook and YouTube, let us know if you have any comments or questions or anything you want to bring up. We just kind of wanted to talk about the Microsoft layoffs, in particular Bryan Roper, since that was kind of in the news right now. But let's go on to something else with Microsoft and having to do with Edge and something that they finally added, which is an ebook reader. And Brad, I know you were writing about this at digitaltrends.com, I believe, or maybe I'm wrong about that. No, you didn't at all. That was just completely made up. No, so Microsoft has finally added an ebook reader to Edge.
Smart idea to try and sell that. They're trying
Yep.
to expand their store offerings. They're trying to expand their marketplace and their ecosystem, and I totally get that. I think there's probably a market. I don't read ebooks, but I'm sure there's a market. The problem is you got to read them in Edge.
Yeah.
Nobody has a Windows mobile phone. Like, those things are just, like, they don't even support Minecraft anymore on them, and Microsoft owns Minecraft. And I'm not going to sit in front of my laptop and read a book in my web browser. Like, that's not, there's a reason I think that ebook readers have become...
But you might do it on your 2-in-1. See, really? I've got one right here. Look. Oh, I'm going to read something.
Are you... After how long are your eyes going to hurt from reading on that screen?
Why would it hurt about reading on this screen?
I just
This
feel like
screen's
you're
really
gonna
high
sit there
resolution.
and, I don't know. I just feel like it's not going to be something that people are going to want to do.
I think
Windows Phone.
Well,
were
I don't
popular.
know if it's. I don't think anyone's out there like, yeah, I want to read ebooks on a Windows 2-in-1. That's how I'm going to do it. But as with so many things, Windows, what Microsoft is hoping is, hey, this is going to be the default option. So when you open up that ebook on your Windows machine, it is going to open on Edge, and you're probably going to be lazy and not pick something else.
So that's what they're banking on, is just that.
Well, isn't that like the entire reason Internet Explorer was popular in the first place? And it took years for people to finally be like, okay, actually, this is bad.
Right.
I'm gonna do something else.
Yeah.
So,
and that is true. Yeah, because it was just always there. It's just explore what. There's something else.
So
no.
yeah, I mean,
No. Juan says he is with Brad on this issue. So.
I'm not surprised, but Juan is an Apple fanboy, so
Called out. And I'm curious, for anybody watching too, are you excited about this? Does this even matter to you?
I don't think anyone's going to be like...
The ebook, yes, ebook reader to Edge. I mean, is this a big enough issue? Because pretty much everybody I know is just going to use Amazon or use a Kindle for it.
I mean, I can't imagine they're offering any books that aren't for sale. It's not like you're trying to sell your ebook and you're
Some
like,
exclusive.
I'm only going to put it on the Microsoft's ebook store.
Exactly.
Yeah.
They probably have a pretty limited selection, actually.
Yeah.
But Microsoft, I mean, what's also interesting about this is Microsoft is still really pushing Edge.
Yeah.
Really pushing Edge. And, I actually just noticed this morning before I came to the podcast, I opened up Chrome and took the power connector off this Dell. And a pop-up came up and said, hey, Chrome's using a lot of battery life.
Yes.
Would you like to use Edge instead? And I was like, no, but that's interesting that you're even doing that.
Yeah, that's what it's asking.
I was actually about to bring that up, that I've been noticing more and more Windows is bugging me to use Edge. And especially, we get a lot of new systems in, and if you change your default browser on a system, the first thing it does now in the settings page is like, well, hold on.
I just want to hear me out. A second.
Just hear me out. Have you thought about trying Edge? And then you have to either click. It's kind of weirdly worded. It's like switch anyway or try it out and the try it out is like a big blue button that's like, come try it out, come browse the internet, like you've never seen. And the other one's like a little button that's like, hey, or you can use Chrome, that's fine too.
Yeah. I'm curious if anybody watching too, do you use Edge? Like, what browser do you normally use on your computer? I mean, I'm assuming Safari if you're on an Apple, but because I mean, I use pretty much exclusively PC products, but I use Chrome. I mean, I don't even use Firefox that much. I actually use Opera every now and then, but Firefox for some reason to me just bogs everything down.
Yeah, it does seem slow.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan, but I'm curious. Yeah, what everybody uses, because Edge, they have been pushing it so hard, and I get those same notifications, and I tried it, and I'm like, I'm gonna go back to Chrome. You know, I'm just not convinced on it. But I know, you know, maybe it actually is good. Maybe it's just me ignoring it, and I should be giving it more of a look. Let's see. Taking a look here in the chat on YouTube, Umbro says I use Google Reader, so and also uses Google Chrome for the most part. Holly says Chrome all the way. Christian, Chrome for me too.
Yeah, I think most people are going to say Chrome, especially most people who are watching this podcast.
Yeah. Right, it's probably going to be Chrome. Apple's what I use with no problems at all, so I'm assuming you're using Safari. That's Larry said that.
Internet Explorer for Mac, they still make that, right?
I don't know what you think.
Right? Christian actually says Chrome on a Mac, better syncing with Google account on my Android phone.
I'm waiting for someone to say Safari.
Is anybody using Safari? Yeah, Safari on Windows, right?
I use Safari 6 still, or whatever the
last
version
Netscape.
was.
Alan says Opera isn't too bad, and I actually use Opera a little bit too, and because I have
like
two different
Opera.
Google accounts, so I want to have it open in two different, and you can only use one Google account at a time when you're using Chrome.
No, that's not true.
Well, you can switch back and forth, but you can't have them both open.
Yeah.
Wait, how?
When you have the second Google account in the upper right corner, you just click the name.
Yeah, but then you have to drop
and then you
down.
Just click you can click open a new window, and you can even if you have both.
Yeah, but
open,
doesn't it log you out of the other one?
No.
What? Okay, never mind. We'll have to get into this afterward.
Yeah,
but yeah,
sorry.
okay. Now I want you to show me that, because every time I do that, it logs me out of the other one. I can only have one open at a time.
Weird.
Okay, maybe I'm doing something wrong. Anyway,
Chrome show.
Yeah, we can turn this into a Chrome
If you
show.
have any troubleshooting issues,
Yeah.
help
Okay.
you.
So Larry, Apple's what I use. Yeah, that's what you said. So yeah, curious. Like I said, what you guys are using, and again, if you have any questions or comments, drop those in there. So Microsoft bringing the ebook reader to Edge.
I think besides them, all this stuff of them trying to get people to use Edge more, kind of sucks, because it kind of is what got them in trouble with the monopoly lawsuits back in the late 90s.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not really.
Do you think we're dancing towards that? Or
I mean, it seems like it. It seems like we're kind of dancing towards that. Like, there's also they did kind of the same thing with the Windows 10 updates, where there were some very questionably worded update things. We actually had an article about that a few weeks ago, which one of our writers went and talked to people who had successfully sued Microsoft over that.
Wow.
And Microsoft, I mean, basically the lawsuits were won because Microsoft was like, yeah, you're right. That probably wasn't great. Here's $600 or $10,000, or they gave a few different amounts to different people. But yeah, I mean, it's just not a great practice. You can't trick people into using a thing and not eventually have them get mad. I mean, it worked with Internet Explorer for a while, sure. Like back in the 90s, Internet Explorer was big, but also everyone ended up hating Microsoft. So I don't know, was that really worth it? Like, everyone was using Internet Explorer, but they also hated you. So
yeah,
it's interesting that people don't have the same feeling about iPhones and Safari there. Because if you want to use a program on your iPhone that is not the default program for a number of things, it's really difficult. If you want to use not Apple's music player, if you want to use Spotify, I use Bluetooth in my car, and every time I get in my car with that iPhone, it would immediately use Apple Music, even though I don't have Apple Music. Everything defaults to that. You click a link, it opens in Safari. And at least on Android, I'm finding I just switch. You can change that stuff, but it's always interesting that people bring that up with Internet Explorer, but not with Safari.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I don't really know many people that do that on an iPhone. Yeah, as far as they're able to switch it out. So yeah, they do make it a lot harder. Well, we'll see what Microsoft does with this, as far as how many more notifications we're all going to get to switch to Edge on our computers. But that's where it's at right now. Let's move on to something actually bringing up the Android apps. Talking about Chromebooks, and something that Chromebook has announced, that they will now all run Android apps. All new Chromebooks will. And it's just new ones, right? You can't retro to older ones.
Some of the older ones, a few older ones are getting an update.
Quite a few older ones, actually.
Really? So some of the older ones. So if you have a Chromebook, what's the specifications as far as how old? Or it just kind of depends?
I don't know. Do you have it open? It's not opening.
I'm opening the Chromium webpage right now.
Yeah.
So the big news is it says in bold print, all Chromebooks launching in 2017 and after will work with Android apps at a time to be announced in the future. So it means they might not have the support right out of the gate, but they all will work.
That it will all end up doing that.
And yeah, and it'll probably be at least a few months before that's a thing for all of them. But yeah, the list of ones that will have the Android app support is over 50 now. It started really small last year, but now there's just a huge list of them. It includes most of the Asus Chromebooks of note, most of the Acer Chromebooks of note.
Excuse me, I'm curious too if anybody watching is a Chromebook user. Is this something that you're excited about to be able to put all the Android apps on there? Just if you're watching now, hop into YouTube or Facebook and let us know. I mean, what do you guys think? Is this a pretty bold move?
I mean, I've been a Chromebook user for quite a while. I've had a Chromebook for a couple of years, and I really like it for a lot of things. But there are definitely some parts of it that, like, if I go on a trip with it and I'm sitting in the hotel room afterward and I'm looking for something to do that's not necessarily work-related, it is kind of limiting. I can watch Netflix or something, but I think having this access to this store of more robust apps, more robust productivity apps that are already built, like I'm using a Pixel C here, and keyboard and mouse support is pretty strong for Android as it is. So those apps should work really well. The only issue is a lot of these older Chromebooks don't have any sort of motion sensing, accelerometer, or anything like that. So some apps are going to have issues with the whole sideways versus not sideways thing. And but I've seen that there's more functionality coming to this. They're trying to figure this stuff out and trying to make this work. I think it's a huge value add for Chromebooks. I mean, they're already. I think if you're spending less than $400 or $500 on a system. If you spend $400 or $500 on a laptop, you're not getting a very good laptop.
Yeah.
If you spend $400 or $500 on a Chromebook, you're getting the best Chromebook you can buy. So, to have that on all of them, and to even say like your $200 Chromebook has a huge suite of Google Play apps now, and things that just work better on there. Like, you might as well use the Amazon app because it's built for Android tablets already, and it's going to work way better than browsing and things like that.
Juan brings up a point. What is the opinion on phone apps on a laptop?
I think it's useful. I mean, I use Signal for messaging, and I use it on my desktop too. Why not?
I mean, most of the apps a lot of the apps that are for Android, they're coded for phone first, but oftentimes they'll be coded to also work on a tablet, which means they're meant to work on a screen that's about the same size as your typical Chromebook screen, a little bit smaller, but in the same ballpark.
But so it's adaptable enough.
It's not so unusual. The main things that sort of hold back the Chromebooks is, a lot of them don't have touch support, so that's an issue. A lot of them don't have support for the motion control things that Brad mentioned, so they won't know when you're tilting the Chromebook. If you have a game that works off of that, it won't work. But otherwise, this is a really big deal, because this is Google answering that question of, okay, you got Chrome OS, you've got Android, like, why do you have both? Like, do you need to have both? They kind of, in some ways, collide with each other as you talk about Android tablets and Chrome OS 2-in-1s and laptops. And also, it's resolving the issue with the Chrome OS not having enough app support. It's a problem, for example, that Chrome OS can't really run Word. I mean, you can get the web version, but there's no standalone app that you can just type in. So once it starts working with Android apps, then you can start using Android version of Word. And plug it into your OneDrive account if you use that and whatever. So that really expands the capability of all these Chrome OS systems. And the Samsung Chromebook Pro and Plus that we saw at CES are going to be kind of the flagship leaders of this, because they actually have everything built in that an Android tablet would. So they should work with those Android apps just like an Android tablet would. So it'd be interesting to see if that actually, how that works out, what people think of it once they actually get it in their hands.
A couple of questions that are coming in. Alan asks on YouTube, does anyone know does anyone know if Atom will run on the Chromebook yet? Atom, like ATOM?
Like the processor?
I'm assuming.
I mean, some Chromebooks have Atom processors, yeah.
Okay, so that will happen. Let's see, and Umbro says he uses Sumatra ebook reader, which is, I think, a PDF adapter.
I've heard of that before.
Yeah, free PDF reader is what they use. So yeah, definitely some different opinions on this as far as whether or not the Android app. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a good thing that it's coming to Chromebook eventually.
I mean, I can't imagine anyone sitting there with their Chromebook like right now, like, no Android apps.
So
I don't
mad.
want that. Like, you know, it's a really nice thing. I think it's a nice surprise for people who have had Chromebooks, even like some of these, you know, Asus Chromebooks for a couple of years, and they're sitting there going like, oh, cool, now I get to actually. You know, get more apps, and especially, you know, Android has really good offline support, which is also something that Chrome OS needed a little help with, and a lot of Google first-party Chrome apps work really well offline. The whole Google Docs suite works really well offline, but it's nice to be able to know you can download a game, and, you know, it was even pointed out that the Android and iOS versions of Netflix allow you to temporarily store videos to your device to watch when you're not online, and you can't do that on a laptop, but if you have the Android version of Netflix on your Chromebook, you can.
It will allow that.
Yeah.
Wow.
Because it's just downloading Netflix from the Google Play Store. So
that's true. Even though it's not going to know the difference that it's. I mean, I guess it's just running from the Android store. So okay, that's a huge advantage. I think something like that, bringing that to a laptop. Yep. All right. Any other comments on the Chromebook?
Well, you know, as cool as Chromebooks have been since their introduction, this is something Google really needs to do because the Chrome OS operating system is not developed as quickly as it should.
Yeah.
When you think about Chrome OS, it came out in like 2011, and at that point, you know, Windows was like on Windows 8. Was Windows 8 actually out as of 2011?
I think so, yeah.
I believe.
I think that's the year it came
out.
Yeah. So you think about what's happened since then with Windows, for example. We've gone to Windows 8.1 to Windows 10, had a major update to Windows 10 afterwards. All these new features, all these interface tweaks have been made. Chrome OS, you know, they had a few major updates. The big one, I think, was the one that added the actual desktop space and the standalone sort of app support where you could download it off the Chrome Web Store. But, like, other than that, it's mostly been pretty minor tweaks. Like, not anything that's really going to make you, like, fundamentally use it differently. And clearly that wasn't really going to be a sustainable pace. Like, it would just eventually be left in the dust by the progress of Microsoft. So they definitely needed to sort of focus more, and this seems like a good step in that direction.
All right. Well, so there we go. So that's some of the new information. There's a lot more information at digitaltrends.com, too, if you want to dig into that and find out more about what's going on with Chromebooks now having the Android apps on them. And again, we want to hear your questions and comments. We got to get to our fourth thing, though, today. So we're just kind of covering a few different things today on computing and news that we've seen that's come out. And this is an interesting one. It's Razer has taken out a patent for displays on keyboards and mice. And I think we have kind of a couple of images just of what their spec images of what that might look like. Brad, what do you think about this?
Well, you know, this is something that we've been seeing a little bit, kind of the hints of it are coming. You know, Razer has been working with this sort of concept for a while. They had the Blade Pro had like a little screen on it for a while, a little LCD touchscreen that sort of worked with some games, not with others, and you could kind of do some limited stuff with it. And then there was also a mouse recently, I can't remember the brand, that had on the side of it had a tiny little LCD panel that you could customize. You know, this is definitely the next step, I think. Everything now has RGB LEDs in it, like everything. And people, you know, that used to be a thing where like at the higher end you got that, but it's like every single product at every price range now has multicolored LEDs in it. They're so cheap. And that this is sort of going to be, I think, the next premium feature is your keyboard has OLED keys that change. I think in some ways the MacBook did kind of foretell this. It was with the OLED touch bar, with the OLED bar. It was sort of a practical, not so practical implementation of it. A full keyboard is a different story, and I've seen people try that before. I've seen like concepts of, you know, a full keyboard with OLEDs or little tiny LCDs under each one. But I think the OLED thing really helps the readability factor. That, you know, you want to be able to see a totally dark surface with just the keys sticking out from it, and that's the only way to really achieve that.
So will it still have like tactile keys on it, or will it be just all touch?
I mean, the patent is pretty
vague.
Pretty vague about that, but it would seem to me that you could have both. that it wouldn't be unreasonable to think that people still want mechanical actuating keys,
I
mechanical keys
would.
on their mouse, on their keyboard, but that you can change exactly what those keys look like and what they show.
Yeah, and for anybody watching, is that something that you would want? I mean, for me, I like at least some kind of tactile feedback, like knowing what I'm hitting and can feel, pressing down the button. Although, like you said, it seems like Mac may have foretold that we're going to be going to more touch everything. Which do you prefer? Would you be excited about a mouse where you actually couldn't feel pressing down on it, or do you want that fancy OLED? Something maybe you can change out what the different, and not necessarily OLED, but where you can change out what the buttons do really easily. I want to hear what people think, but you like the idea.
I do. I think it's an interesting idea. That being said, I use a DOS keyboard at home, and it's totally blank. Like I don't have any sort of it's not the kind of thing I would buy probably. I checked out their the 5Q, their cloud connected keyboard too, and it felt nice. But again, it was sort of the thing where all these buttons light up. I would probably prefer to just have something quieter.
Yeah.
But I think that's personal. I think there are a lot of people who would, and I imagine knowing Razer and the Chroma, a lot of those Chroma keyboards do look really nice. And I imagine if you had a full swath of OLEDs, you could probably get pretty fancy with your lighting effects across the keyboard for, showing it off to friends and stuff. But
Right.
Very fancy. You could just,
fanciest.
You could actually just watch a movie on your keyboard.
And it probably might look better than your screen if you don't have a very good monitor. So
Yeah, exactly.
those OLEDs.
It's hard to say exactly what's going on here because for the simple reason that Razer already made a prototype like this a few years back. It was called the Maximus.
The
Optimus Maximus keyboard. They didn't ever produce this, as far as I know, but it was a keyboard with some OLED screens underneath the keys. Or maybe this wasn't actually.
I don't think it was Razer.
This was not a Razer thing.
It was just it was a design concept. Yeah.
So this was a design concept.
It's cool. The picture I'm seeing has
and at the bottom it says patents pending. So it looks like Razer got to the patent. So Razer itself, though, has been interested in the idea of this sort of customizable key for a really long time. They showed 5 years ago their first prototype things that had keys which were customizable. That was I don't remember the name of it, but they had sort of this little gaming sort of netbook thing with customizable keys. That was a prototype they never built. But they did end up actually using that technology in the Razer Blade line with the models that have the customizable keys on the numpad, for example.
Yeah, actually, Richard in the chat and on Facebook says a small keypad like the number keys set up for selected functions would be a nice feature. I can see that. Is there anything else that you'd want to use it for, Richard? Juan says, what would you change the keys to be like? I like the standard key distribution. Okay, maybe for gaming, he says.
I see. There's a picture of the Optimus Maximus here, and it's clearly somebody's World of Warcraft setup.
Yeah.
And you can see their B button is a bag, and their ability icons are now the number keys, and so it's their hotbars on the keyboard. And I think that could have a lot of uses in games like that where you do have a ton of buttons and abilities you're dealing with. Or, a lot of times I'll set macro keys on my keyboard and I'll forget what the macro keys are and what each one does. And if I could put an icon on there that's this one's a crosshair, that's supposed to be my, this macro or whatever.
Yeah, I would love that. I play World of Warcraft from time to time, subscribe for a few months at a time, and I oftentimes cannot remember when I log back in after I've been away for a while what the keys do, because there's 12 hotkeys or so that relate to your character screen, your bags, your guild, whatever, and they're not what you might expect. So your bag, I don't think is B. The guild, I don't think is G. They're in all these different locations across the keyboard that don't immediately make sense. So if
we could just have that light
that
up.
will just show you here is the thing.
This is bag.
Would be awesome.
Don't they sell little cutouts that you can I remember seeing at one point that you could buy a little cardboard cutout for your keyboard and you lay it over the keys so that it shows
I bet they
where
do.
all of them are.
And there's also is for mice, so I can imagine so Razer makes these mice that have 6 buttons on the side now that are for action RPGs and for MOBAs. And the idea is you have these 6 buttons and you bind them to the 6 or so actions you usually have in those games.
Yeah.
I can imagine there being some sort of thing where you can provide visual indication on the mouse for that as well. Or, you could have maybe like a screen around the, fingertips of your mouse. So if maybe there's a little indicator there that gives you ammo or something if you want to glance over that way. I don't know.
You could actually look though and see it.
A lot of different ways you could go with that.
Dan says and getting outside of gaming for another advantage would be, I love video editing short keys, and that's true.
Sure.
Especially for something like that, any kind of editing I could see. I mean, even for audio editing, what I do, I can
that's something
definitely
Razer runs into a lot. It seems like actually they'll make these really cool things for games, and then pro users will be like, excuse me, I would like that.
Yeah.
That's a really powerful, fancy system you made. Can I use that for my video editing, please?
Yeah. It was like their 3-screen laptop. I remember when our video editor, Rich Shibler, producer, got on there, he looked at it and was like, I need that here at CES so I can do work on it and have 3 4K screens.
Which that's still missing, isn't it?
They never
found that?
No.
The 3-screen demo
And
laptop?
somebody was trying to sell it, but I think that was fake because they were using a picture of the unit from the hotel suite where we initially saw it.
Are you in the picture?
Razer's hotel suite. No.
Brad's
Might as well.
Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I guess it sounds like there could be a lot of advantages of this for Razer putting those in there. And if any other ideas, if somebody has them, go ahead and drop those in on Facebook and YouTube as we start to wrap up. But yeah, okay. Now I'm kind of getting convinced now that maybe I could do it. I still wanted to have some kind of a feedback, some kind of pressure.
Yeah.
Tactile feedback.
And I think, they are a gaming peripheral company, and I think they do understand that people don't want a touch keyboard.
Yeah.
That would be pretty miserable, I think, for gaming purposes. Maybe for production, like I've seen those little laser projection ones for mobile devices and stuff, but they don't work well at all, and they're kind of janky.
And I think from the patent that it looks like that's what Razer wants to do is they want to have a mechanical keyboard where you have OLED screens in the keys, and so you're getting the best of both worlds. That seems to be kind of the idea from the patent drawing, because it's not showing a flat surface that's a flat touch surface. It's showing a key diagram. There's a cap and a thing underneath it for a sensor, and you would press down on it. But. So
it's in theory, they probably would still have that on there.
Yeah.
All right. Well, any final thoughts on this? Do you think this is where everything's going to go? I mean, once Razer does it, are we going to see this on a lot of other platforms?
This stuff is kind of better suited for laptops than it is for desktops.
Yeah.
I think chroma keys on your keyboard with showing cooldowns and stuff is neat. If you're on a laptop and you're playing on your keyboard, you're probably actually going to see those, whereas you might not if they're down here. And I think this is kind of the same thing. If I have a laptop and it's got OLED keys, I think that's maybe a little more useful than having them down here where I'm constantly looking up and down.
Okay. All right, well, there we go. So that's kind of wrapping up our topics for today. Talking about Razer. Again, this is Close to the Metal, so this is our weekly show that we do live every Tuesday at 10 a.m. on Facebook and YouTube, and then up as a podcast afterward on iTunes and Stitcher, wherever you get podcasts. We'll have it up there, and there's a huge back catalog of shows that we've done. So please go check those out on digitaltrends.com or on our YouTube channel and all of those places. Again, though, just to get back to the beginning, Bryan Roper, no longer with Microsoft, Fedora guy, will not be there. My prediction still, he will be in a Microsoft commercial within a month, or an Apple commercial within a month.
I think Lenovo.
Lenovo? You think Lenovo's going to do it?
They hire the kind of energetic, eccentric people like that. They got Ashton Kutcher up there a lot. Yeah. I think Lenovo.
Lenovo.
Yeah, maybe Asus. I think you'll see him at another Windows PC
I think maybe Lenovo or
you think he's that?
Yeah,
HP maybe. Yeah, Lenovo is.
He's going to stick with something Windows oriented. It's not just going to turn him completely.
I don't think he'll turn trader.
Okay. I don't know, man. Apple's got a lot of money.
Linux.
I think there's going to be a bidding war.
He's going to be Red Hat's new demo guy.
Yeah, he'll be for Fedora.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, that's good enough. Okay, so thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in. We'll be back next week with another episode.